So in this video we're going to be discussing income tax and USC, so the Universal Social Charge. Now this all has to do with paying taxes to the government when you earn a certain amount of money. So a woman earns €45,000. Her standard cut-off point is €28,000. Her tax credit is €4,000. Her standard rate is 20% and her higher rate is 41%. And the question is calculate her income tax. Now there's a lot of numbers and a lot of information there, so we'll just go through it slowly. A woman earns €45,000. That's grand, it's no problem. That's what she takes in gross before any deductions are taken off. Her standard cut-off point is 28,000. Now this is where the first kind of issue starts arising when people don't really understand what this means. So I've just drawn a scale at the bottom. The standard cut-off point is an amount of money that you're allowed to earn at this rate, and then everything else above that will be on the higher rate. So the standard cut-off point I'm going to put in is here, 28,000. Now, that's her standard cut-off. She is allowed to earn this much money, so 28,000, and only be taxed 20% on that. So from here up to here, everything she earns up to 28,000 is taxed at 20%. Now, when you go above that, when you start earning slightly more, or even substantially more, you are taxed at a different rate. She earns 45,000 a year. So this is going to be her whole salary. But she pays 20% tax on the first 28,000. And she pays 41%, which is the higher rate, on everything else. So from 28,000 up as far as 45,000, everything else there is taxed at 41%. Okay, now the first thing I'm going to try and do is work out her gross tax. Now to find that, we have to find 20% of 28,000 at the start, so that's okay. So 28,000 multiplied by 20%, and we need to find 41% of this extra bit here, this bit that's left over. Now, it wouldn't be fair to tax 41% on everything because you've already had your tax taken from here. So the 41% is just this section. And this section, if we work it out here on the side, 45,000 is the whole thing. This bit is already gone. So we take away 28,000 and that leaves 17,000. So this blue section here is 17,000. 17,000 is taxed at 41%. So 17,000 by 41%. Now I'm going to work out what both of those are. 28,000 at 20% is 5,600. 17,000 at 41% is 6,970. Now if I add those two numbers together, I get 12,570. This is her gross tax. So that's the tax that she's expected to pay initially. But because we have an initiative called your tax credits, this is the amount of tax you don't actually have to pay. So you're allowed this much money, 4,000 tax, that will just be knocked off the bill. You don't have to pay that much. So to find your net tax, or it's also called income tax in this question, you use your gross tax, which is this number we found here, take away your tax credits. So gross tax is 12,570. Take away your tax credits of €4,000. That leaves you with a tax of 8,570. So that's how much tax you will have to pay over the entire year. So this second example is a bit trickier, but it's very similar to what we did, it's just in reverse. So the question says, a man earned X amount of money in 1 year. So we don't know what he earned. We know that he paid 13,150 income tax, so that's how much he actually paid. He had tax credits of 3,500. His standard cut-off was 32,000. His standard rate that he paid was 20%, and the higher rate was 41%. Calculate his income, so find out what X was. Now in the last example, we had the income at the top, and we had all the other information we had to work to the bottom. Now we're missing the top part, but we have the bottom bits of information. So you're just working backwards. Now we know he paid 13,150 income tax, and his tax credits were 3,500. So from these two numbers we can work out his gross tax. So it'd be 13,150 plus 3,500. That gives us a gross tax of 16,650. So that's how much tax he was supposed to pay. Now this, as I had in the last question, this is 0. This is how much he earned. We don't know what that is. We know his cut-off point is 32,000. We know that the standard rate was 20%. And we know that the higher rate was 41%. Now, this whole number together, this section, is his gross tax. So this number combined, 20% of 32,000 plus 41% of whatever, gives us 16,500. So we need to find out, if we can find out what this section is, well then we can find out what the total answer is. So the first thing I'm going to do is find 20% of 30,000, just to find this lower section, this bit here. So if we say 32,000 multiplied by 20%, that gives us a value of 6,400 euros. Okay, so that's the initial bit. Now 6,400 is the lower section of the 16,500. So if I do this, if I take away the lower rate from the total, we can find how much was used in the upper rate. So that gives us a number 10,250. That's how much money, or how much tax the man paid at 41%. So we're now trying to find it backwards. We know that 41% of this amount of money, this section here, is 10,250. We want to find what 100% of it is. So that will give us this section. Now we've done this before. In a previous couple of videos I've shown how do you go from a certain percentage to 100%. If you have whatever percentage, here we have 41, we want to go down to 1%. How do you go from 41% down to 1%? Was divide by 41. So you have to do the same on both sides. So 10,250 divided by 41 gives us 250. So divide by 41, same over here, divide by 41, that gives us 250. That's 1%. We want 100%. So 250 multiplied by 100 gives us 25,000. Now, 25,000 is this middle section. It's not the whole total, it's this bit here. So he earned 32,000 up to here and was taxed at 20%. He earned an extra 25,000, that was taxed at 41%. We're trying to find the total. So his total income is this section, which was 32,000, plus this section, which we found out was 25,000. And from that we can work out that the man earned €57,000. Now this last section is going to be based on the USC, the Universal Social Charge. So this is another type of tax, and there's different rates depending on how much you earn, again similar to what we had for the income tax. So you've 3 different rates for the USC. You've 2%, 4% and 7%. And it all depends on whether you're getting paid per year or per week. So sometimes you work it out from your annual income, sometimes it's worked out from your weekly income. So the 2% is paid, you pay 2% on anything up to €10,036 a year, or 2% on anything up to €193 per week. If you earn slightly more than that, you pay 4% on this section, so 10,036 up to 16,016 per year, and per week it's 193 up as far as 308. And then you finally pay 7% on anything above that. So anything over 16,016 or anything above €308, that's your 7% rate. Now, in exams, generally, you're given the form. You don't have to remember these numbers because sometimes they can change depending on the national budget of the year. So in the exam, you will be given these figures that you can work with. So a question I have here. A man earns €740 per week. Okay, €740. So we're going to be focusing on this section. Now, again, similar to the last part we had in the video, you start with 0 here. The first cut-off point, because we're talking about per week, is going to be €139. Or sorry, €193. The second section is going to be anything up to 308. And the last section is on anything else. So it's going to be whatever else. Now we know he's up as far as 740. I know it's not the scale, but it's close. It'll do just for the example. So we'll say he's here. Now he pays 2% on this much. You pay 4% on this much. And you pay 7% on the rest. Now the first thing I want to do, this is grand, 193, it's 2% of 193, that's going to be fairly standard all the time. This is a bit of a tricky one, so it's only 4% of this middle section. Now to work out that section, we'll say 308, take away 193, 115. So this amount is 193, I'll write it in a different colour. This amount is 193. This middle section here is 115. And now we need to work out the 7% on the rest. So up as far as here has been 308. Whatever's left over, 432, is going to be the higher section. Now, how much does he pay in USC? Calculate his USC. So it's 2% of 193 plus 4% of 115 plus 7% of 432. Now if I put all those into the calculator, 193 multiplied by 2% is 386, not much. The second one is going to be 4% of 115, so 115 multiplied by 4%, and that changes to 460. And the last one is going to be the biggest one, 432 multiplied by 7%. So just for the percentage button again, click shift, and there's a percentage logo here. Because it's yellow, you click the shift button. So shift and percent, and that gives us €30.24. Now if we add all of those up, that will give us the total amount of USC that this man paid. So it was 38.70. So that is his total USC. Now I hope this helps with income tax, and I hope it works with social charge. The universal social charge is usually tougher because there's 3 sections in it, but they nearly always combine together as a whole question.